So friends, welcome to the 170th session of Legal Empowerment Through Interaction lecture series. It's a momentous moment for us because we are completing 170 today. And what else can we discuss on the 170th session than the basic right to know? Because when you have a right for determination of self-determination, unless and until you're furnished with the correct data, correct information, what use is that right, or what use is, of what consequence is a right to decide for yourself. Unless and until you have the correct inputs, your decision will always be corrupted or prejudiced. So today we are dealing with a topic which I don't know how it escaped this 170 sessions, because so important. So I mean, it is something that is necessary, because in different forms and in different avatars, it has been there, not just because Right to Information Act came into being. It has been in different provisions. It has been embedded in the Constitution. When you say you got a right of speech and expression, the natural corollary is that you got a right to information also. When you have to express yourself, you should know what you're expressing. So it has been there. But it is wonderful that we could get the man who can, the personality who can speak authoritatively on the point, on the subject, because the Central Information Commissioner, nobody else can speak more authoritatively than that. It's thanks are due to Vijay, because it was in fact he who introduced, or rather instrumental in having this wonderful speaker today. We are indebted to Justice Ramkumar sir and Ramakrishnan sir for their valuable presence, and I'm sure that all of you wonderful participants who have been there in this journey of enlightenment, discovery, and empowerment. Before we start, may I ask or request Vijay to have the introductory remarks, please. I know it's a surprise, but still.
It's a kind of a surprise for me. But then because I've seen Mr. Siddharacharlu. He is a very learned man, and he speaks very eloquently and very clear in his conveyance of his thoughts. I thought he is a better person to speak on the right to information. I thought of this particular topic was not touched upon. So I pursued him. In fact, I pursued him in November, and it eventually materialized. And I'm very thankful to him, because I did not meet him personally, physically at any point of time. It is only an introduction through virtual mode, through mobile. I called him, spoke to him. That's how we got to know each other. And thankfully, he has accepted it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for accepting and addressing us today.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much. So, right to information and right to the right information as a fundamental right. Sridhar sir, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy. Consider it as a privilege to be with you on this 170th day of your wonderful seminars. I'm happy that you have preserved this topic for me from all these 169 seminars. Thank you so much. Then when my friend Mr. Vijay and Sham asked me about the topic, I chose it is better we talk on what we know a little better than all others, because I know that the audience is studded with jurists, justices, advocates, experts from different fields. So better I speak about my own field, I thought, and then he readily accepted it. I thought the topic must have already been covered, but I'm happy that it is not covered. Now, coming to the essential characteristic functional right of democracy, the right to information. And we don't know about right to information until 2005. And that is the stage of information also. We do not know. In my view, the right to information existed since Indian Evidence Act has come into place centuries ago. So where you have definition of public record, and then 74 and 76. And then there is a provision for access to public record on payment of certain copying cost. That's a very, very clear provision that we had in Indian Evidence Act. But unfortunately, we have not asked for it. Maybe some of the advocates who are very well versed in Indian evidence must have demanded that information. And if it is denied, they must have filed writ petition to extract that information. There were some cases, very few cases, but there were some cases. Then surprisingly, I could discover the right to information existing in 1860 when I was practicing, when I was hearing the second appeals in Delhi as Central Information Commissioner. That was necessitated because of the information request about a society which denied the information. Now, can a society deny the information? Whether society is a public authority. If it is not a public authority, can it decide the information request? That is the question. That was the question before me. And when I reached the origins and the bottom of the issue, I discovered Societies Registration Act 1860. Societies Registration Act, a wonderful act. And to my great surprise, one section is headed by right to information. It simply says right to information, and it says for 25 NP, you have to give every information that was asked for. 25 NP. Then a private school was before me. The private school said there is no funding from the government for us from any quarter. So we will definitely not fall under the category of public authority. So we will deny the information. That was a stand taken by the school. Then I asked, the school principal was there before me. And then I asked the principal, who is the owner of your school? Who manages your school? She said, it is the society. That's all. They are caught. They are the society. Then I said, you have to give the information. Very interestingly, again, we have a wonderful definition of right to information under Information Act. This right to information, it is not definition of right to information, but it is definition of information. Definition of information, listing out what are the records, various records that are available with the public authority that could be accessed to. There is one last sentence in the definition of information that says the information which is held by the private bodies, if accessed by a legislation, that information is also defined as information. This is the most important part of definition. And let me claim that I have used it profusely, and I demanded information. Then it was given also. It was given, and very few attacked this provision. And some of the cases went up to Delhi High Court in the form of writ petition. And Delhi High Court has accepted my point that the definition of information covers private information also, provided if there is an existing legislation in force which provided some kind of access to that information. And I said, and there is one more restriction on the operation of this definition. That is, the information has to be given as per the provisions of that law, which has provided the access. Then I said, okay, give it for 25 NP only. Don't charge more than 25 NP. It was an interesting question, and it was a very popular decision also. It was quoted in newspapers and all that. Okay. Then apart from this, the society-related access to information will help private hospitals also to perform the obligation of giving information. That's a very, very important point I noted in my various kinds of judgments. Because most of the hospitals are run by societies, if you remember. Now, of course, corporations and companies have come up. If a university is run by a society, even if that, if a hospital is run by the society, even if that hospital claims that it is a private authority, the societal route is available for gaining the access to information. This is a very, very important point I would like to say. And I'm in total agreement with Mr. Sham when he said, where is the doubt that once you have right to expression, it should have right to information. I appreciate his interpretation and the way he has put it. But unfortunately, until right to information came, very few said about it. Very few. Then here, I would like to refer to Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Article 19 specifically says, right to expression includes right to information. Very, very specific. That is my topic. Right to information as constitutional right. That is my topic today. So I have every foundation reason to say that right to information is a constitutional right. I'd like to give you the way Right to Information Act was introduced in Parliament in 2005, 2004, 2005. The government and maintenance of records and general administration is more a state subject. So law, implementation of law is also state subject. So the objection was, how is that central government can pass a legislation for the state governments also? In fact, by that time, several states had their own Right to Information Acts. Then how is that you're passing it? Then the government of India came up with an argument that I'm implementing a fundamental right. I'm implementing a fundamental right under 19(1)(a), which is common to states and center. So I'm doing it. Fantastic. I'm happy to know that they recognize it as a fundamental right. If you look at the preamble of the amendment introduced to Right to Information Act in 2019, they reversed it. They reversed it, and the government says, very interestingly, it is not a constitutional right. It is only a statutory right. So we cannot equate information commissioners on par with election commissioners. So we will not give them status of election commission. That is, which is equivalent to Supreme Court judge. Fortunately, when I was appointed, I was having equal status equivalent to election commission and of course Supreme Court judge also. But I would like to say this kind of interpretation of central government in 2019 was absolutely wrong and unconstitutional. The reason is election commission enforces or facilitates enforcement of the right to vote under 324 article.
Okay.
Under 324 article. 324 article says that there is a universal franchise, but basically it is part of Article 19(1)(a). One part of Article 19(1)(a). I am choosing my government. I am expressing opinion on the party which can be authorized to rule this country for 5 years. So it is basically a freedom of exercise of freedom of speech and expression, which is used in the form of right to vote, which is regulated to be facilitated by election commission using the machinery available in the whole country. Then one of the various ingredients of right to freedom of speech and expression is right to information. When I have the information, I can choose in favor of whom my choice has to be exercised. And that is the reason why every election is preceded by a campaign, and that campaign is regulated by Election Representation of People's Act, wherein you are not supposed to give false information, religion-based information, misleading information, and mischievous information, so on and so forth. So similarly, the part of right to freedom of speech and expression is right to information, and that's the reason why right to information is not just a statutory right which came into existence on 2005 because of Right to Information Act 2005. It is part of Article 19(1)(a). That is my stand. And before 2005 and even after 2005, there are prominent judgments which establish that it is a constitutional right. That is basically the point which I thought of explaining how it becomes a constitutional right. It's a basic for democracy. It's like something like oxygen for democracy. Information for democracy is oxygen for human being. So information. Without information, I cannot vote. Without information, I cannot speak. And I can also say that without information, I cannot even think. We have liberty of thought, absolute right. There are no restrictions on liberty of thought, luckily, because they do not know what I'm thinking. They can't restrict it. So the liberty of thought depends on right to information and to a great extent right to know. Let me also say, while standardizing the importance of significance of right to information, saying that it is a constitutional right, let me also say that government does not consider this as right to education, right to knowledge, doesn't consider it as a right to knowledge. It is only right to information and not right to knowledge. Unfortunately, it is the limitation that it is there. It is a major limitation on right to information. It is not right to know. Right to know is, I think, is a very important element of freedom, right to life, and under Article 21. That is the part of it. That is the reason why 21A, right to education, which is part of right to know, is appended to right to life. That is the reason. So this is the constitutional, the background and constitutional foundation of right to know, right to information, sorry. Now we have completed 15 years of journey implementing Right to Information Act. People ask whether it is successful or not. I unhesitatingly claim that it is successful enactment. I don't have any hesitation to say that it is successful. The reason is the most of the information is being given by the PIOs. Most of the information. Let me emphasize this. Only some very seriously controversial information, high corruption related information involving the significant personalities in politics, business, and various other influential fields is being fought against. They resist and they come to first appeal, second appeal, and most of them even land in high courts and Supreme Court also. There is a very good information jurisprudence available prior to 2005 enactment, supporting right to information very, very, very enthusiastically. The judiciary played a very significant role in upholding right to information, transparency in administration before Right to Information Act. I'm very clear what I am saying. And after Right to Information Act, which covers judiciary also under its ambit, the judiciary was not so enthusiastic. And unfortunately, it gave several orders which shrink, restrict, suffocate the scope of information. Very, very unfortunate. Now, recently, the Delhi High Court also gave a judgment saying that the applicant has to disclose the motive, reason, purpose for seeking the information, which is specifically prohibited by Right to Information Act. Right to Information Act says the requester, applicant, need not disclose reason for filing right to information request. Suppose I wanted to know what is the consultation that held. Give me the inspection of the file of consultation before the 3 farm legislations were passed. What kind of a motive I should explain? What kind of a motive? Why should I explain? Unless I know what was the consultation, I can't even come to a conclusion whether the farm laws are beneficial to farmers or not. So what should I say? I belong to so-and-so party. I want to criticize the bills. So I would like to know, will you give me the information if I disclose the reason? Reasons have to be given when reasons are going to be reviewed. The Right to Information Act came into existence to introduce or strengthen transparency and accountability. What is the meaning of accountability? You're all elders, you must be knowing it. But yet, for the sake of in the context, I have to explain, and I'll explain. Any authority will definitely inform the decision to the people. There is no dearth of information about decisions, but there is complete secrecy about why the decision was taken. Why did you take a decision? What was the reason for you to introduce 3 farm enactments through ordinances during the pandemic COVID? Why? What was the urgency? If I agree that the government of India is so wonderful government, it granted liberty without somebody asking for it. Granted liberty. I read nowhere in the history that any government, whether it is democratic or dictator, has granted liberty to the people without hesitating for it, without asking for it, without creating revolution for it. Every liberty that you are enjoying today is the result of revolution. Every liberty. And farmers are liberated during the pandemic by the most benevolent government without any demand for it. And when consultation request was, the information request was made for disclosing the consultation record, do you know what they said? Very interesting again. They said, we don't have any record. That is the first answer. Second answer is, it is sub judice. What is sub judice? What is sub judice? The High Courts and Supreme Court is engaged in public interest litigations challenging the constitutionality of farm enactments. Now, if the enactment is challenged on the grounds of constitutionality, is there a prohibition anywhere in the world that you should not discuss its constitutionality? You should not discuss its reasonability. You should not discuss its requirement. You should not discuss that people wanted it or people did not want it. Where is the reason for that? What is the logic for that? What is the logic for that? And sub judice is no ground for denial of information. Sub judice is a ground for not making influencing comments over the matter pending before the judicial adjudication. That's the only limitation. Don't make any comments, or don't create interference, or don't interfere with the activity of. Substantial interference in the proceedings of the court activity is called contempt of court. And one of the grounds of contempt of court is you have made very serious comments, pre-concluded the decision and tried to influence and obstruct the proceedings of the court, then you are liable for contempt of court. Disclosure is no comment. Disclosure of information is a necessity for adjudication. Suppose I need some information for litigation. Why should I not have it? Section 81B specifically says, unless there is a specific prohibition by the court of law on disclosure of information, information has to be given. Now the Ministry of Agriculture Department, CPI will say, sub judice, I don't give you information. There is no record on consultation. Supreme Court asked the same question. On January 11th, I hope you remember, Chief Justice of India, Honorable Chief Justice of India was in a brilliant form on the day, like Virat Kohli in cricket field. He was hitting fantastic balls, sixers, bouncers, reverse bouncers on the stage, saying that you have insufficient consultation. And that is the result, today all the farmers on the roads. Then it filed an affidavit in the evening, January 11th evening, affidavit by the Ministry of Agriculture. It says that consultation is going on since 20 years. Kya baat hai? 20 saal se ho raha hai consultation. We are fools, we don't know about it. The entire India doesn't know about it. Huh? Then from the days of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, farm reforms of farm laws, from the days of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, it is happening, and we are consulting. And then, very interestingly, again I say, I'm happy to have used this expression very frequently. because it's so interesting. It says that they had webinars, they had Zoom-based consultations, they had SMSs. They have received 2 crore 23 lakh SMSs. They have sent SMS messages and amounting to 2.23 crore. From June to November. This is the affidavit. From June to November. Sir, tell me, when the ordinances were promulgated? They were promulgated in June. And that means you have consulted them, you have issued crores of SMSs before June, and you say from June, we have consultations. This is the kind of untruthful statements we are receiving from the top authority, supreme authority of Indian executive. Very, very unfortunate. So the RTI questions, no, I would like to tell you, whether you get information in response to your RTI request or not, you will expose the intentions of the government. That is the beauty of Right to Information Act. Now, NDTV filed an RTI application. Ministry of Agriculture said, we don't know. We don't have any record. Anjali Bharadwaj, RTI activist, filed an RTI application. They said same thing, we don't have any record. Then Supreme Court asked, they said we have consulted. Law Minister said we have consulted. Then the affidavit says, this is the reality. My question, my answer is, my logical, okay, so far we have discussed law. My logical conclusion on the consultation, so-called consultation for so-called liberation of farmers of this country. If there are written demands and proof to say that farmers wanted agricultural produce market committees to go, so far the government of India would have advertised it on front pages of newspapers, Twitters, WhatsApp communications, videos, and you would have found this statement repeatedly stated by every minister, every MP, every MLA, MLC of ruling party. They are tight-lipped. They could not show not even a single proof that somebody called farmer is asking for liberty. This is the reality. So the reality was reflected in RTI responses when they stated we don't have a record. It's true, they don't have a record. Why they don't have a record? Not that there was consultation and record was maintained and now the record is missing. It is not that case. It is not the case of termites eating the notary register. It is the case of really not having a record because really there is no consultation. So this truth is revealed by RTI. I'd say this is, we have to hats off to the mechanism of Right to Information Act, that it could reveal and it could put the government in such an embarrassing situation that it is very difficult for it to defend and cover its lie. That is the advantage of Right to Information. If people do not understand, thereafter also, I'm helpless. The people should understand. We expect people to understand this. Then this is the latest example of the fear of RTI that government is exhibiting. Now, I told you, I quoted one judgment of Delhi High Court, unfortunately, which is totally against the letter and spirit of law, letter and spirit of Right to Information Act. Supreme Court also is endowed with the credit of issuing a fantastic order on Right to Information Act in the initial days, 3 or 4 years ago, saying that you have to appoint only judges, only with the consultation of judges you have to appoint the information commissioners. And they just reinterpreted the entire Right to Information Act in their own way, beyond the imagination of parliamentarians and beyond the expectation of the RTI activists and beyond the letter spirit, and I don't know what else we should say. It went beyond the scope of their own judicial review, and they gave a wonderful order. Then it was Government of India that has to file a review petition, not the RTI activists. Government of India filed the review petition, and in review they have reversed everything. And I'm surprised that the power of review is so huge that you can completely reverse your judgment that what you have given earlier. And that was the unfortunate development that we had. There were certain good points in earlier judgment, but the conclusions were very wrong. But all those good points were camouflaged. Then second judgment conclusions were legally right. Directions were legally right, but their observations were terribly wrong. I don't have time to explain how their judgment is seriously affecting the Right to Information Act. Some time we can think about it. Now, you have another judgment on November 13, 2019, which was about the application of RTI to the judiciary. And prior to this, since 10 to 11 years, judiciary was dilly-dallying about its, what is that, functional transparency. It was trying to hide from functional transparency and trying to cover itself up without disclosure, fighting the orders of CIC, asking for disclosure. Very unfortunate. And once CGI went on record that judiciary is not under Right to Information Act, went on record, then all of the people like me and some of the RT activists, they should pick up various aspects and write about how judiciary is also falls under the ambit of Right to Information Act. Fine, all those things are over. Now, there was a RTI request. There were 4 RTI requests, in fact, which are covered by the 2019 judgment of Supreme Court. A constitution bench was constituted to deal with constitutional issues of Right to Information Act. I'm really surprised the way it was referred to a constitution bench. I'd like to say SP Gupta was the first ever excellent judgment on right to information in 1975. No, not 75. SP Gupta versus Union of India. It was considered as first judge's case. Yeah, first judge's case. And this case is about disclosure of information about the files regarding appointment of judges and transfer of judges. Please note. And Bhagavati came up with a wonderful judgment saying that you must disclose on your own the files regarding the transfer and appointment of judges. Openness and transparency in functioning would better secure the independence of the judiciary. They said transparency in judiciary will ensure independence of the judiciary. But do you know, surprisingly, the question referred to Constitution Bench in 2019, whether independence is affected by transparency. You have a 7-judge constitutional bench available, judgment available, saying that transparency will encourage independence of judiciary. How is that you have constituted a 3 or 4 member bench of a constitutional bench to decide that question again? What is happening? And the judgment is fantastic again. It comes up with so many explanations, so many reinterpretations, so many redraftings of.
Sir, there is some connectivity issue.
I think you would have. Should I call him?
Yes. Probably he is not aware.
He vanished.
Wi-Fi failure.
So we have Justice Ramana sir also on the platform.
Namaste, namaste. Good evening, everyone, sir.
Good evening, good evening.
After a long time, I'm joining you all. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Namaste, sir. Ramakrishnan, sir, how are you? After a long time.
Fine.
Yes, I wanted to see you all this day after. I
Long
just
time.
returned from my vacation.
Thank you,
Pongal
brother. Thank you, brother, for revisiting us.
vacation. Well, probably this is my obligation to Mr. Shyam.
Is it a holiday for you now there?
Yes, sir. From tomorrow we have got regular course. That is said. Virtual course. After
Okay.
Pongal vacation, court is going to reopen
You
tomorrow.
are also having Pongal vacation.
Yeah, yes, sir. Last week.
I thought
we enjoyed the
that
vacation.
is a privilege of the Tamil Nadu people alone.
No, sir. Pongal is Sankranti is a very big festival
Sankranti
for
is
us.
there. Sankranti is normally one day or holiday, but I don't know whether just
No,
like
we have regular vacations for about a week.
just like we are having
almost
Onam.
during second week of January. Almost
Just
entire second week of January.
just like we are having Onam there.
Yes, exactly. Sankranti is a big festival for us here.
No, Harvest Festival is always celebrated in South. One way, one form or other. Even the Onam in Kerala is related to harvest during that period because it was during that period only they are having the harvest.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Shyam, are you able to get it, Mr.
Yes. He is reconnecting, sir. Yeah. Just give 2 more, maximum 1 minute. He is already here.
He is one of my old friends.
Ah.
I know him very well. Yes, Mr. Sridhar, are you able to hear us?
Sir, you'll have to unmute from your side.
Okay, I'll do that.
No. Sridhar, sir, you'll have to unmute.
Sridhar has to unmute. Okay.
Yeah. Sridhar, sir, can you just unmute?
I am unmuted.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, back in action, sir.
Yeah, I'm coming through mobile. My laptop somehow got disconnected.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. So I was trying to explain the judgment in S.P. Gupta case.
1981 Supreme Court, sir. You were on that, the first judge's case.
Yeah. Okay. So it was totally on the same question on which the Constitution bench of 7 judges decided that independence of judiciary will not be obstructed by the transparency. Then coming to the judgment of 2019 November in Subhash Chandra Agarwal case, where the registry of Supreme Court was questioning the order of disclosure made by CIC, which was supported by Delhi High Court, single judge and division bench. It was questioning. The information sought was how many of the judges have filed their assets and records, assets and liability statement. They did not ask for disclosure of assets and liability statement. They simply asked for the number of the judges who abide by 1997 Judicial Reinstatement Resolution. But that was resisted by the Supreme Court very strongly. And they argued all sorts of things before the CIC and also before the Delhi High Court. It was so interesting, if I say, the cause list was very interesting. Supreme Court versus Subhash Chandra Agarwal, Supreme Court versus Central Information Commissioner before Delhi High Court, saying that don't give information. Then appeal, Supreme Court versus Central Information Commission in division appeal. What is that called? Division.
Second appeal.
Not second appeal.
Letters patent.
Letters patent appeal before the Delhi High Court again says Supreme Court give the information. And Supreme Court was before the Supreme Court against the Central Information Commissioner to deny the information. But suddenly they understood the futility of this case. And then stated they converted the cause title as registry, the chief CPIO of Supreme Court of India versus Subhash Chandra Agarwal. This is the right cause of cause title. I'm happy that they have come back to the correct cause title. And in that, they interpreted every section of Right to Information Act and expanded the scope of restrictions and restricted the scope of disclosure. I am extremely upset with that kind of judgment. Extremely not a favorable development with reference to right to information. So leaving it at that place, we should understand the importance of right to information as a constitutional right, which is fundamental to democracy. Unless you have right to information, you will not make the government, executive, public authority, bureaucrat, or any other representative who is using the public money and ruling the public under the delegation of authority given by the public through the exercise of vote by the public. So in public interest, the public administration should be transparent. You come out with your own information. I don't ask. If I am satisfied with the background information that you have given, I will not ask. There are two aspects, very important aspects of right to information. One is transparency. The other is the transparency here means Section 4 of Right to Information Act, which says you disclose on your own entire logic, reasons, circumstances that led you to launch a new policy. Whenever you take a new policy decision, you are asked to explain the reasons, circumstances, and what is your necessity to bring in this kind of change in the policy. That was the demand of Article 4.1b, 4.1c, and 4.1d. I suggest you to note down these three sections and have a reference to understand the scope of this disclosure. When demonetization happened in our country, not happened, it was made. When demonetization was made, I was traveling in through some airport. I was waiting for a flight. I met Raghuram Rajan in the same launch. Then I introduced myself, and Raghuram Rajan was very enthusiastic to ask me about. Professor, tell me, is there a responsibility on the government of India to disclose the circumstances that led them to announce demonetization? He asked me. So, you know, what is the stand of Raghuram Rajan? Then I said, sir, where is the doubt? Section 4.1b, 4.1c, 4.1d simply says the entire information regarding the policy changes must be disclosed on their own without somebody asking for under Right to Information Act on their website in an official manner through certified copies or through authentic disclosure mechanism. You have to explain these are the reasons why I brought in demonetization. So that's just one example I'm telling you. And when you bring a very serious, significant legislations like 3 farm enactments, one which overtakes the agricultural produce market committees in states, one which encroaches upon the exclusive state listed entries like agricultural farm produce, agricultural markets and fairs, which are under list 2, which is prohibited for Parliament to treat in. How is that you are not explaining to the people that these are the reasons why I have brought up this enactment? You should have done it. And when somebody filed an RT application, you say it is subsidized, you don't have a record. This is very wrong way of dealing with the people and accountability. So this is the situation. I think I should stop here and I can open the question and answer session if it is there.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay?
Sir, before sir, you conclude, there's a doubt expressed regarding that definition of information. We started off with that. Information relating to any private body which can be accessed by a public authority under any other law for the time being in force. So a clarification is sought by many of us in the sense like how is it that a private body can be brought in under this.
That's what. Now let us take a company. A company is supposed to be regulated by its company's the director. What is it? You have the
Board of
registrar of
Directors.
companies.
Register of
Directors.
companies and register of ROC.
Companies Act is there. Registrar of company registers you, and when he registers your company, there is an obligation on you to disclose about you. When you have when you have registered your society, you have an obligation to disclose. You have to conduct an annual general meeting, and you have to put up the resolutions in the public domain. And people even advertise, advertise in the newspapers that this is what we have done. So there are such provisions through which I can ask you the information. The Companies Act, through Registrar of Companies, has an access to information held by the company. So the information definition makes it possible for the Information Commissioner to invoke the provisions of that law to provide access to the information held by the private authorities. So this is one of the answers to a general question whether the private bodies are also liable to give information under Right to Information Act. Basically, Right to Information Act is made for disclosure of information from the public offices. It is basic thing. But the information held by the public authorities. Suppose as a regulator, I hold information. I'm an RBI. I hold information about the private banks in me because I permit them, I regulate them, I instruct them, and I control them. I'm an RBI. The information is available with me. I'm a public authority. And that information can be accessed. Which information which I have authority to hold, I will anyway disclose. But if I have authority to provide access through a particular legislation which is in force, I have to give that information also.
And then again, you will have to approach that public authority which has this private entities information, not to directly to the. Yeah. So PIO should be there of a public authority.
Naturally, no.
Correct. That was a bit of confusion was created because of that, sir. Okay. So
I know it's a very, very complex provision, and the doubt is very genuine. I appreciate that doubt, but it's a very important provision. I'll give you another very interesting example. An advocate came to me for medical record of his father, who died in a private hospital. And he filed an RT application with the private hospital. He said, I'm not a private, I'm a public, not a public authority. Get out. This man came out because he's an advocate, he understood it. Then he filed an RT application with the Ministry of Health and Public Health and Medical Services, something like that, in Delhi government. They also denied. Then he came to me in second appeal. Then I was searching for whether there is any possibility of securing information from this body legally. Now, the medical profession is regulated by Indian Medical Council Act.
Yes, Act.
Under Indian Medical Council Act, there is one set of rules passed by the Medical Council about access to medical records, which says the information about medical treatment, diagnosis, medication, etc. has to be furnished to the patient within 72 hours. Within 72 hours. Now, I will not go into the question whether the private hospital is a public authority or not. I need not go. But I can ask the medical department or Medical Council of India to collect the information and give it to the concerned person. I gave an order, and it's one of the, I consider, and people also consider it as one of the landmark orders of under Right to Information Act, because even every private hospital, even a single private doctor is liable to give information to the patient about the treatment. You tell me, sir, are you not entitled to know entire record about your own health, your own body, you paid money for it, you consumed all sorts of medicines administered to you, and you have given your blood, your serum, or what sorts of fluids were required to be given. They are your fluids. The reports are based on your fluids. And how is that you are not entitled to have a record of your own medical diagnosis, treatment, and so on and so forth? This was really appreciated by the Secretary of Health, Secretary of Law,
in the union government, and my judgment was circulated to all the doctors in all the hospitals in the entire country. At least that was the order of the Secretary of Health and Secretary of Law. But you know the implementation part of it. When Supreme Court judgments are also not being implemented properly, who am I? I'm a very small person. So that is the plight of it. But if anybody is sincere enough to enforce, provide good governance, he should give good and complete information. If he's not interested in good governance, I consider it as bad governance, corruption, and which is not the goal of constitutional governance. The constitutional governance demand transparency. So transparency is constitutional responsibility. The right to information is constitutional right.
Sir, I mean,
No, here also one question, sir. See, a patient is entitled to get their information because he must know what is the nature of treatment given. Suppose any third party can say, file an application, what is the nature of treatment given to him, and what are all the medicines administered on him, without disclosing the purpose for which he is asking for, on whose behalf he is asking.
Right, you're right, sir.
right
You're
to
right.
privacy.
There are again 2 points here.
It's a right to privacy about that particular, because what is the nature of disease?
Yeah, let me answer, sir. Let me answer. Your question on right to privacy is absolutely right. You are absolutely correct when you are asking this question. And the Right to Information Act is not asking for revelation of that. Section 81J very clearly says that if it affects, invades privacy of an individual, don't give information. And I have a judgment of Bombay High Court on this point. There was one minister in Maharashtra ministry who gave permissions to sawmills in spite of a Supreme Court order prohibiting it. Then some activist filed an RTA application, not RTA, contempt of court petition. It went up to Supreme Court and he was punished for 30 days of imprisonment. The minister, when he was minister, he was punished. Then he was taken to prison. On the first day of his wonderful experience in prison, he held his chest and fell down and complained chest pain. He was admitted in a very costly private hospital of Bombay. He was treated for other 29 days. On 30th day, he was released from the prison. He was released from the prison, not from the hospital. So he claimed an entire government, entire expenditure was borne by the government. Entire period of his treatment or so-called imprisonment was considered to be imprisonment. Then somebody under RTA application filed an RTA application to know what exactly the disease he was suffering from. Then the Bombay High Court examined the question very thoroughly and they found out the public interest because his treatment is foot by the taxpayers' money, because he was holding a public office at the time of the punishment and so-called treatment during the punishment. So it is in the public interest to know whether he really suffered any disease or not, or did he play a fraud on the public exchequer. So whenever public interest is involved, whenever public exchequer is involved, you are having authority to override privacy in public interest, according to Section 81J of Right to Information Act. So it's a very clear judgment, sir. You are right. If it is general private curiosity to know the disease of a person, don't give that information. But if it involves public interest, give the information. And first basic point is, you are right on that basic point. The patient has to get. Now you tell me, sir, how many patients are getting their own medical record in this country? So that is a very, very important decision should have been implemented. And I demand all the jurists, advocates, judges to ask for this. This will prevent frauds in private hospitals. The transparency in private hospitals is the sure remedy against the fraud, medical frauds.
Sir, every state has got an enactment. As far as Kerala is concerned, we have Act 14 of 2012, which is the Kerala Healthcare Service Persons and Healthcare Service Institutions Prevention of Violence and Damage to Property Act 2012, wherein Section 6 is very clear. It says that responsibility of healthcare service institutions to give complete information of medical treatment. It shall be the responsibility of each healthcare service institution to furnish in writing the complete information about medical treatment provided by such healthcare service institutions to the patients who seek treatment in the said institution or to their relatives. So this can also be enforced through RTI by giving a petition to the
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you getting? Are you getting in Kerala?
Yeah, we have never tried that out, sir. I mean, to my information, but now now that we are enlightened on that aspect, we might, sir. Sir, before we open up for the questions, let us get the comments of the eminent panelists. We'll start with Justice Ramana, sir. Sir.
Hello, Mr. Sridhar. How are you? Meeting you after a long time.
Yes, sir. Sir, how are you, sir? So nice to see you.
Fine, thank you.
I
After a
was
long time, probably
partly
after a
seeing
decade.
you. It was
After a
not,
decade, probably I'm
picture
meeting
was
you.
not-
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you, sir?
Fine, fine, thank you. About you?
Yes, sir.
Anyway, Mr. Versatile, I can tell you.
Sir, I could not
Very
hear
good.
you.
Several articles in Telugu and regular contributors to many Telugu dailies here. Of course, it was earlier probably. Now I think it's given up.
Who, sir?
After taking over as Information Commissioner, probably Mr. Sridhar has stopped contributing articles to Telugu dailies, isn't so?
I was writing on RTI during my commissioner's tenure. I was writing only on RTI. But after that, I
Okay.
started writing again on various other things.
RT.
I did not give up, sir. I was continuing as well.
Okay, very nice. Very nice, very nice.
Thank
You
you for
better
remembering
continue
it.
because all these articles are quite informative.
Yes, sir.
They are
Thank
quite
you.
informative and see, they are in such a simple language, they make everyone understand the intricacies of several legal provisions and legal aspects.
Thank you so much, sir.
Anyway,
I'm writing continuously, regularly, even now.
RTA subject is something new to me. I think that Mr. Shyam and others are well versed in this subject. And before Mr. Sridhar, who is an expert in the field, probably it's not fair for me to speak anything more. So I request Shyam to take over.
Thank you, Ramana, sir. Ramkumar, sir, your comments.
Thank you, sir. Excellent and insightful articulation by Mr. Sridhar on the right to information, which is a facet of the fundamental right of speech and expression. In fact, without the necessary information, one cannot speak or express. You rightly put it, Mr. Shyam, and we have the imprimatur by the speaker also. In fact, I find a logical extension of the same principle in the various decisions of the Supreme Court in the concept of representation in Article 22(5) of the Constitution of India in respect of preventive detention. Even though the detainee is given a right to representation, without the necessary material, reasons and the material, he is handicapped in giving an effective representation. There the Supreme Court made the right, the proper decisions, various decisions of the Supreme Court. He should not only receive all the information which went to the passing of the detention order, and they should be legibly given. It should be legible, all those things. So it is also, I think, a facet of the right to information. Now I have two doubts. One, about the advice of the Council of Ministers given to the President of India or the Governor. Constitution says it shall not be called in question in any court of law. What is the impact of the RTI Act on this provision?
Sir, you'll have to unmute. Sridhar, sir, you'll have to unmute.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah, I left my mobile and I joined back.
I saw that you're moving from one to another. I thought it was double roll.
So the question is, well, a very complex constitutional question. It was provided for under Right to Information Act under Section 8. It says, if there is a cabinet decision, with reference to cabinet decision, what it says is, if the cabinet has taken a decision, entire information about it has to be given. If the cabinet has not taken a decision, that information need not be given. I don't know what is the logic behind it. I disagree with that, but okay, that's a different thing. But law says so. Then coming to advice, coming to advice is an information. The privilege part of it that was provided by the Constitution is only to immune the high constitutional office holders from appearing before the court of law and being subjected to proceedings of court of law. That is the purpose of privilege. But it is not, disclosure is not an obstruction or a disturbance to the privilege.
Okay.
Disclosure is not. But they do not accept it. They litigate it. There are several cases are even now pending. And I would like to take you to the decision of Supreme Court in SR Bommai case, where exactly the privilege was pleaded and concluded that information can be reviewed by the judiciary. The privilege doesn't affect the disclosure. That was the judgment in Bommai. So
It is
in my view,
justiciable.
yeah, it is justiciable. Similarly, disclosable. People are supposed to know what exactly is the advice of. Suppose a clemency petition is rejected by the president
Yes.
on the recommendation of the home minister. In fact, Constitution doesn't say that. Constitution says that the constitutional office holder like president and governor, they have to exercise their own discretion in clemency related matters. But they
Even
have
clemency, I think even clemency, Maruram says it is Council of Ministers. Justice Krishna,
Council of Ministers.
Krishna,
But,
yes.
Yes, you're right. But ultimately, it became the recommendation of the home minister, not even council.
Mhm.
The home minister recommends and president acts on the recommendation of the home minister. That's of course a development. That is not what is provided by the constitution.
Constitution.
So my point is, when there is a public interest behind your recommendation, why should you not disclose it?
Correct. Then the impact of Official Secrets Act on this.
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact, that was answered again by the Right to Information Act. It gave an overriding effect. What it says is, wherever there is a conflict between Right to Information Act and Official Secrets Act, Right to Information Act will prevail. Not only Official Secrets Act, any act for that matter in existence as on that day, which prohibits disclosure, is hit by Right to Information Act, and Right to Information Act prevails.
I see. So supposing some military secret, some request is made regarding a military secret.
Oh.
For example, that was the issue in that ISRO espionage case, that the fuel used for that rockets, that was being leaked out indirectly to Pakistan. That was the allegation. Supposing such crucial, sensitive military secrets are being asked for, can they refuse information under the Official Secrets Act or any other?
RTI 81A, RTI Act 81A, straight away says that you need not disclose that information.
Okay.
But Defense Department is not excluded from RTI Act.
Okay.
Because, you know, the defense deals are deals which involve hundreds of thousands, lakhs of crores of rupees of public money. And if there is any corruption, you will find that corruption only in purchases. So it is to be part of RTI Act. That is one part. And one more point I would like to say. There is a general prohibition, general exemption to certain agencies, like intelligence agency, intelligence bureau. It is totally exempted from Right to Information Act. Totally. The list is available under the schedule, in which CBI is also added. Very, very unconstitutional. CBI is nothing but a police. When police is part of, police falls under the category of RTI, why not CBI? It's a funny.
So there is
funny,
one section in the Indian Evidence Act, 125. I think it is 125. It says.
Read it out, sir.
I will.
Privilege communication.
No, not that. In a way, privilege, but no magistrate or police officer shall be compelled to say whence he got any information as to the commission of any offense.
Okay, fine. Don't give.
What is the impact? What about the impact of the IT?
No, it is
RTI?
not against disclosure. No, there is no, it will fall under one of the exceptions, confidential information is also one exception is there. The information prohibited by courts of law is also there. So court of law can say that, no?
Okay.
Privileged communication has certain privileges.
Okay.
So the exceptions clause under section 8 covers almost all of these restrictions that are available in various enactments, including Official Secrets Act. They are protected.
Okay.
There is no contradiction.
Sir, may I just, I'm sorry, Ramkumar sir, regarding that question itself, that is the information available with an officer. The definition of the information is something like off-the-shelf information. It should be there. It cannot be a why or reasons or anything. I mean, subject to what Sridhar sir has to say. That's my understanding.
It is on a compelling also. The question is
Compelling.
about compulsion.
Yes.
Yeah.
It should be already available. The material should be there for you to disclose.
He has got reasons. He has got information also. He shall not be compelled to disclose.
Correct. If he has recorded it somewhere, it can be, maybe, I don't know.
Correct.
If it is,
See-
if it is a public document where it is required to be recorded, and then it is no
Yes.
longer a
It
secret
is
information.
justiciable. Because the
Suppose,
adequacy
for
of the
example,
reason.
you are
Adequacy.
expected to keep a general diary.
Yes.
General diary. You will have to maintain it. What you have done. What are all the things you have done on a particular day in respect of investigation. That is all expected to be recorded. But at the same time, I think that suppose some information received that why you are going there for that purpose, probably you need not.
Sir, I mean, what I was trying to express is that 125 deals with my knowledge. Knowledge is not information. Information is defined under Information Act
Correct.
is something that is tangible,
Correct.
available, off the shelf.
Correct.
That's my understanding.
It's only a record, sir. The only one thing that Right to Information offers is a copy of a sheet which is part of a file. That's all.
Correct.
Not answer to question.
Correct. Yes, Ramkumar sir, I'm sorry for the interdict. You may continue.
No problem. There are statutes which say that he has to record the reasons for arrest. He has to record it. That is justiciable. He will have to record the reasons for arrest.
Correct.
Unless he records that, and if that there is no record of reasons, he can certainly go into that. So I am not on that. I am on the 125. Whether he may be having reasons or material for regarding the commission of an offence, but he cannot be compelled to do that. Probably, as you rightly said, it falls under 821A, is it not?
That's one thing, sir. 821A is one part. If it is in the form of a record, 821A will come. If it is
Okay.
not in the form of a record, nobody can ask for it. Nobody can ask for it.
Because I know somebody told me it's in my mind. That cannot be disclosed.
Correct,
completely
correct.
disclosed.
How can I know that I should ask for it? First of all, number one. Number two, when it is not part of any documentation, how can I take a copy of it?
Okay, correct. Thank you. Wonderful articulation.
Thank you. Justice Ramkumar sir. Over to you, Ramashan sir.
Really, it's a nice information about right information. You can say one thing, but I see, suppose you say without a demand, no legislation can come. Suppose people may not be demanding, but on experience, people think that something is going on which will not be protected in public interest. Will it not give them a right without for a demand to safeguard, because I'm not on this act alone, but generally, without a demand or without a strike for doing certain thing for the purpose for which a law is required, is it not the wisdom of the legislator to frame a law to protect a particular thing which they feel that it is to be protected for the purpose of public interest? Is it
Sir, I am
necessary
not on the
always-
law. I am not on the law. I am on the liberty. I am on the liberty of the persons. That's what I stated. Number one. Number two, if you are talking about that in the context of farm bills, I'd like to say farm bills are not offering any protection. They're removing protection.
No, the purpose it appears to be, as I understood, is that to remove the middleman and make the farmer rightly involved with the selling their right to sell their article to of their choice. It appears to be.
That's what they claimed, sir. That's what they claimed, but it is not part of the legislation. You will not find say, even a single sentence about it. And in fact, what this law says is, if there is an agreement between a contractor and farmer, and if that agreement contains a clause contradicting Agricultural Produce Marketing Committees Act or any other state act, agreement will prevail and act will not be. So it's a straight, it is no empowerment. And your point of removing of middleman, instead of removing middleman, it introduced a new middleman. The name of the middleman is sponsorer. The sponsor was given an authority to become a party to the contract, and they will be entitled to exemptions and subsidies, whatever that is available. And over and above that, an immunity clause is there, which will go to the extent of immuning contractors, sponsors, and purchasers. I tell you, sir, it's a terrible legislation. It's a terrible legislation. And I think you have to separately discuss farm enactment.
That is, of course, let us confine ourselves to right to information and let us do the farming later on.
I am only on the general aspect. Is it always necessary demand must come from a party or this thing? When the legislature came to know about certain exploitations or certain injustices being done, to eradicate that injustice being done to a particular community or particular society as such.
Ramachandran sir, usually when professors are, of course, would be knowing law is not, when we are taught law, whenever basics are taught, what is said is that law is not the command of the sovereign. It is the expression of the will of the people and it's consistent with law of reason. It is the quintessence of the common sense of the community. That's what statutory recognition to the felt need of the society. That is what.
No, is it necessary a demand must come, but they realize, by experience, they realize that such a thing is required.
Sir,
will it not be sufficient?
You are right generally. You are right generally. But let me tell you one thing, sir. Government will come up with legislation whenever it requires an authority, whenever it requires power on its own. Nobody asks for it. And wherever people wanted some kind of liberty, some kind of right to be guaranteed, it will come only on the demand, sir.
That's throughout history, sir. Irrespective of who is governing.
Right and liberty are demanded. Restrictions, removal of protections, impositions, taxation will come on wisdom of the legislature, sir. That is where the wisdom lies.
Only for the purpose of discussion I put it.
No, I have no objection. I'm also coming out with an answer. That's all.
Sir, we have Sir Ramachandran sir.
It's a nice class, sir. We really enjoyed the what do you call the right to information as a constitutional right, and what is the right to information? What means right to information? And how this is being interpreted, it was intended, it is being interpreted also explicitly expressed by you.
Yeah.
Really, thank you very much for your elucidation on this aspect.
Rao has a question. Rao.
Yeah, of course. That is away from, the way he is going to zoom in from the high altitude, let us say.
He doesn't leave our platform without a question. At least one question.
Sir, that is a complaint I will
That's the way
stop.
he's involved into this one. It's wonderful.
So I have a very peculiar situation. Last January, I was before the CIC. You are aware that Air India has deducted our salaries or reduced it by 25%, which we agitated in court. We won. We wanted to know, when you have deducted 25%, what is the amount that you have deducted? The PIO does not give the information, First Appeal does not give, and ultimately when the CIC calls, he says, sir, we have not calculated as yet what we have deducted. How can sir, I'm not joking. You can go onto the CIC website. My judgment is there.
I agree.
And I told Mr. Sinha, sir, how can this be possible? If he deducted 25%, there has to be a benchmark of what 25% he has deducted.
Correct.
They are not giving it to us.
True.
And the CIC says, no, but he doesn't have the information. So how can I force him to give it? I said, sir, because he has not prepared the chart, does it mean that he doesn't have the information?
Correct. That's the correct question.
But he says, no, but how can I force him? He's saying he doesn't have it in document form. This is the question that puzzles me a lot. Sir, we
See,
have
sir.
got, 4 times we went before the CIC in 4 different issues, sir, and we got 4 different answers.
You have got 4 different answers from public authority or from the commission.
From the public authority, sir.
That is the problem, na? That is the problem. Commission has to coordinate it and he has to give a right answer.
Correct, sir, but he's refusing. He says, how can I force him to give? His statement is that it doesn't exist.
Then
I
it
said,
is
sir,
that I don't want to pass a comment on a commissioner, but let me tell you one point, sir. Now somebody retired, he has to get a pension.
his dues, yes.
Yeah, pension and terminal benefits. Then he was not given for 2 years. Then the RTA application was filed. In my view, RTA application is a 10 rupee public interest litigation, sir. It will solve your problem if people rightly respond, and he will get his grievance redressed within 10 rupees. Otherwise, he has to file a public interest litigation or a writ petition in the High Court, which is a very costly affair. So here, this gentleman was none other than a professor of a university. He retired a couple of years ago, but he did not get his pension. He filed an RTA application. The answer from registrar is, we are yet to calculate his pension.
Correct.
Exactly what Rao was asking.
I mean,
Now, then what was my answer? Then I was the commissioner. I said that, okay, when are you expected to pay him? Every month, when do you pay the salary? Sir, before on the last day of the month, we'll pay the salary, we'll credit that into the account. Suppose you don't somebody doesn't calculate your salary for that month and he doesn't credit in yours in account, what will you do? Then he did not have an answer. A pensioner means what? He is depending only on your pension to survive. I said it is life and liberty related information. If you don't calculate and give pension to him, he cannot survive. It's a life related information. You have to settle it within 48 hours from the date of filing of
Article 21.
Huh?
Article 21.
No, sir.
Existed.
There is one provision in RTA Act which says that if information requested is life and liberty related, it has to be given in 48 hours. 48 hours. Then I said within 48 hours, you have to calculate the pension amount and pay it along with arrears. If you don't do it, I'll punish you. And next date of hearing, sir, professor was paid his entire arrears salary and he was so happy, profusely thanking another professor. That is me.
all for 10 rupees.
For 10 rupees. Sir.
Wonderful way of putting it. 10 rupee pill.
It is a 10 rupee pill, sir. Anybody who is interfering with and stopping with, stalling with is against the people, against the good governance, against the constitution.
Sir, what is your opinion about the yesterday's judgment from the Delhi High Court?
Which one, sir?
That I have to give you the reason why I want the information.
I told you, sir.
In the beginning, yes.
It's a wrong judgment. It's against the law.
So somebody is bound to challenge it now, sir.
Yeah, it has to be called back. Some new practices have been developed by the judiciary. They call back certain judgments, correct and release again. Like a car, defect in the car, manufacturing defect in the car. They will call back, defect repaired and re-rolled into the market.
I mean, it would look like the statute is being rewritten by the judiciary.
Yeah, sir.
That's exactly what it amounts to.
Certain aberrations and certain misinterpretations or unintentional misinterpretations maybe. But still, it goes to the very root of the Right to Information Act.
Exactly.
Some orders used to be passed for reasons to be disclosed later. Even by Supreme Court.
That means no reasons will be disclosed forever. There was one judgment by the Madras High Court in 2014 or 14 or 15. It was totally against the Right to Information Act. Then people wrote articles, Hindu and other papers article. I also wrote an article. Then the Madras High Court recalled the judgment, reviewed it and gave a correct order.
Thank God it was a civil matter. If it was a criminal matter, no power of review.
Sir, what I suggest is we should question whether it is an order of judiciary or order of parliament or government. We should question. It will be very difficult, I understand, very risky, and you may face sedition cases also for criticism, but still you have to do that. If not, if you do not use 19(1A, sir, you will not get 19(1A protection. If you lose 19(1A protection and right, you will lose the entire Indian constitution along with right to information.
Yes. Even courts are not above criticism.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Should not be kept.
Thank you, Rao sir. We have Shoaib with a question. Can I read it from the chat box, sir?
Please.
Can a person who is not a litigant in the case ask for information of a pending case between two other litigants? Example, A wants to seek information of a case pending between B and C before a court of law. It is a request not to be put. Okay, that's the question.
See, you go by the principles of judiciary. Whether it is a private case, civil case, criminal case, it is supposed to happen in open public hearing. What is the meaning of that? Open trial का मतलब क्या होता है? Anybody can sit and listen to your proceedings of case. So whether we can extend this into a right to seek the documents is a question which has to be decided vis-a-vis Section 8 of Right to Information Act. Vis-a-vis. Suppose a rape case is going on. It is difficult. Suppose you are asking for a what is that order sheet bolte hai na aapko? Docket.
Proceeding paper.
Copy of the
Proceedings.
proceedings. Yeah, copy of the proceedings of the docket. I think you have a right to get it. Suppose it is subject to again 81A, 81B, 81C, private. कोई इसमें private information है क्या?
Details of in-camera proceedings.
Yeah,
Right,
all
right
those
case.
restrictions, all those restrictions will operate, and if they pass through all those restrictions, yes, he is entitled to. There was one gentleman. I think this is a well-articulated question. He is not revealing anything, but he wants everything about that. That's not the correct way of asking the question. But he should tell me what is the case, and then only I can answer correctly. If he doesn't tell, I have nothing to tell. So
there again, sir, may I just put one doubt, sir? You got a right to get certified copies from the court even otherwise. Then why take recourse to the Right to Information Act?
This is a good question. This is a good question. Now, I would like to answer in this manner. You have passed a Right to Information Act in 2005. The mechanism is prescribed. And you also have a proceedings, the procedure in existence under which the court will provide certified copies. Okay. So will you reject? Suppose he comes for a certified copy under court procedure. Will you reject because RTI is there? Will you reject?
No.
Then why should I reject? Because the CA copy application proceeding is there. Why should I reject? He comes under RTI.
The other may be expensive also.
No, I'm not into all that at all. When a law provided for a remedy, will you say the remedy is available somewhere else? Are you a high court? You're not a high court. Are you hearing a writ petition? No. Do you want him to exhaust all his remedies before coming to RTI? No. Then why do you say all this? The moment you say that other provision is available, that is all the more reason for you to give the information. It is disclosable. Give it.
So I have a further question to this, sir, if I may be permitted.
Yeah, that is Shoaib's question which I was asking. Shoaib, yeah, of course.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Sir, actually, the problem which we face in West Bengal is that suppose a litigant wants to appear before in a case, and prior to appearing, he wants to be fully prepared with his own defense or with his own particular facts of the case, and he applies for the certified copy. But then, generally, in most of the courts out here, what the learned courts decide that since you have not yet appeared, or since you are not a party to the proceedings, you won't be entitled to the certified copy, and hence my Right to Information Act has to be invoked for getting the copies. So here lies the difficulty, sir.
Yeah. Ask for it. Right to Information will act only according to Right to Information Act. See, the restrictions which are available are the only restrictions, and no other restriction from any other law will operate. And simply because somebody has a alternative disclosure mechanism, it cannot be denied. There are several judgments to that extent, and law and logic also supports this point of view.
Sir, at best, the third-party information restriction to that extent may apply. That notice may have to be given to the parties as well. Why it should not be disclosed?
No, Mr. Sham, sorry to interfere.
Yes, sir.
The request of the gentleman is for the records relating to a pending case or
Correct.
disposed of case, as the case may be.
Correct.
As a matter of right, he is entitled for certified copies of public documents.
Correct.
Once a matter is filed in court, whatever pleadings we present or whatever record that is prepared by the court,
It becomes
subject to certain limitations, they are all public records.
Correct.
Or we can say public documents. So in terms of Evidence Act, a person is entitled, an individual is entitled for certified copies of those public documents. there cannot be any question of refusal or rejection of such request. Okay. Then another question is, connected question is, there is a judgment of Supreme Court, I think in terms of Section 8 of RTA Act.
Correct.
The proceedings say relating to a judicial body or judicial proceedings are not subject to application of RTA Act. I think that as I recollect, the judgment came somewhere around 2009 or so. I think Mr. Sridhar must be knowing it.
Judicial proceedings?
Judicial proceedings are not subject. The pending matters before the courts. I'm not speaking of any record relating to the court.
Correct.
Proceedings in the court. Suppose a suit is pending, or a criminal case is pending, or a writ petition is pending, or writ appeal is pending, or any proceedings concerned to judiciary, that is judicial proceedings, they are not subject to application of RTA Act.
That
I
means
think
what?
the judgment was rendered by Justice Balakrishnan, no, KG.
No, not
former
KG.
Chief Justice of India. Former Chief Justice, because basing on the judgment, a division bench of Andhra Pradesh High Court then at Hyderabad gave out a judgment.
Yeah, that is, yeah, there is a judgment, sir, but if I am...
No, it is, see, RTA Act cannot be made applicable to judicial proceedings.
That's what, process, judicial process related. Suppose somebody files an RTA application saying that how and when this order will be decided, that cannot be entertained under RTA.
No, there used to be certain
cannot be
applications. See, even in questioning the judgment, sometimes we used to get applications. Under
That
RTA.
is not admissible. I agree with you.
Why the judgment has been rendered? Why the judge has given these reasons?
Supposing a third party, supposing a third party applies for the copy of an interim order, third party.
Ramana sir,
So the
and
RTI,
sir, let us.
Yes, that is the
basic.
See,
answer is yes, sir.
That
it has to be given.
What happens to a public document? When once we treat it as a public document, then everyone has got right to have a copy
Correct.
of it.
He's right.
Even a certified copy, sir.
There need not be any special provision.
Yes.
He's entitled to certified copy in terms of evidence side.
But this is a cheaper remedy.
Sir, one more point I
What
would
is
like
the
to
cheaper
add here.
remedy, sir? Please tell me what is the cheaper remedy?
RTI.
10 rupees.
No, they also collect sufficient money, sir, for issuing certified copies. Not only 10
2
rupees,
rupees for A4 page. Only 2 rupees for an A4 page, I believe.
Page. Per page they charge 2 rupees, whereas we charge only 75 paise or 1 rupee maximum.
That's what.
Ours is a cheaper remedy.
That is also there.
Yes.
Ours is a cheaper remedy. See, as a matter of right, he can get certified copies, whereas in a public or in office.
But can a third party? A third party is not given as of right.
Yes, third party, yes.
Sir,
He can
section
apply.
11, section 11 come into play then. Section 11 is regarding third party information. There are certain
No,
restrictions
even
that he should be
third parties following the rules made by the High Court, concerned High Court, they can apply for certified copies of the record.
That of course, sir. I was talking about the Right Information Act, wherein a third party information can be accessed subject to section 11, wherein that party
That is
also
there.
will have to be
Suppose, see,
Correct.
consent of third party is required for issuance
Yes,
of
section
record.
11.
No. Again, one clarification, sir. It is not consent, but the consultation.
Consultation.
So you consult and you decide. PIO has
Suppose
given
no
authority.
consulting party
necessary.
refuses to give access to the record.
Still he can give. Till it can be ordered.
That is decided by the commission. That
No,
is information commissioner.
let me say, sir. There are 3 levels of notices under section 11. First of all this, and when he decides to give information, he has to inform the third party to say that in spite of your objection, we have decided to give this information. If you have an objection, you can go to the commission. And till he goes to commission, he will not disclose it.
Okay, that is the right of that.
But he doesn't go to commission, he can disclose it.
Okay. Subject to that right. Fine.
Shoaib,
Thank you, sir.
is it anything else,
Thank
Shoaib?
you. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Pradeep has got a doubt. Pradeep, please. Just keep it short, Pradeep.
So there is, I just want to clarify, it is a wonderful session, sir, and it is very simple. Simply, you have put everything in a very simple way, and it is very much informative. Now, my question is regarding the PM's cash fund. Now, I think it is not coming under RTI. How much it is collected, for what purpose it is being utilized, etc. So I just wanted to clarify whether we can get any information from a PM CARES fund, like how much amount it is collected and it is distributed for what purpose, etc. and all.
Mr. Pradeep Kumar, it is PM CARES Fund. Understand the name, number one. Number two, if he cares to give information, he will. If he doesn't, he will not. That is point number two. Then coming to RTI. RTI, recent response of the PMO with the RTI questions regarding PM CARES was very interesting. It's a private trust and you can't ask for the information of private trust.
And that is what I'm asking you, sir.
Yeah.
So
That's
we
what
will
I'm answering.
So
I'm answering. Give me time to answer.
So
I'm not completed. Yeah. So the controversy has been unnecessarily raised by the PMO when first question about PM CARES was not answered by saying that PM CARES is not a public authority. My point here is, basic point here was, I also wrote an article. I wrote a book in Telugu on this point, on this question, small booklet of 60 to 70 pages. First of all, PMO manages the affairs of PM CARES. PMO manages affairs of PM CARES fund. That is stated by PMO itself. I am not saying. The PMO is a public authority. There is no doubt about it. When you are a public authority and you are dealing with controlling or negotiating or managing the affairs of PM CARES, it is your duty to tell about it. That's all. Act clearly commands it. Then come to next. What is the authority of a trust? Of a trust which is called PM CARES fund to collect the donations? Where from they get authority? What is the source? Is it enactment? Is it a notification? By what it was constituted is a question to be understood. My answer is, it is website created by PMO office official website, which is a unique source of authority of PM CARES fund, very unique source. You don't have a notification, you don't have a law, but you have a window in PMO website which deals with, which announces, which notifies, which clearly authorizes the PM CARES fund to collect the donations from various government offices. And it also has got tax exemptions, even if you assume that it is a private trust, according to Government of India. When you are collecting, when you are having tax exemptions, concessions, income tax related concessions, you are substantially funded by the public authority, and so you are a public authority. That is one thing. And here there is no privacy. We are not asking for who are all troubled with COVID-19. And we are not asking for all that. How much of money you have collected from whom, to whom you are giving it. Unless it is a very black money coming from a criminal mafia gang, you have no justification to maintain secrecy about it. So on questions of public interest, on questions of public trust, and forget about all these things. What is the Trust Act? What does Trust Act says? Every beneficiary is expected to have complete information about the management of the trust. Who are the beneficiaries of PM CARES fund? Every citizen in the world, in the country, is beneficiary. So you are holding the entire money in trust for the benefit of the people of India, and people of India have right to information about the management of the trust money. So on all counts, you are bound to give information. And on all counts, they are denying the information. This is the fight.
And more so if you are a contributory.
Thank you. Sir, we have Jyoti Kanojia with a question. Jyoti, can you unmute and put the question, or should I read it? Jyoti, please. So may I read the question?
Please.
Can a cooperative housing society come under the ambit of IT Act? If yes, can a member ask for the bylaws of the society from society? And if society refuses, who will be the proper authority for this? Secondly, if authority is not giving answer, where to go?
Commission, right to information, information commission.
They are definitely covered. Society.
Yeah. First point, cooperative housing society depends on so many aspects of definition of public authority, can be a public authority and need not be a public authority. There are 2 points. Cooperative housing society is society number 1. So through societies, regulators, you can access the information. That is, I've already explained.
Correct.
Then go to the other aspect, whether cooperative housing society itself is a public authority. Suppose Government of India or Government of Kerala gave you some land, piece of land at a throwaway price because you are serving Government of Kerala. So you are redistributing the entire land among the staff or members of it. And that comes to a few hundred rupees, few hundreds of rupees for a plot. You are substantially funded by the government. So you will become independently a public authority. A person can file an RTA application before you. There is one interesting judgment of Supreme Court on Kerala Cooperating Housing Society, cooperative society, not housing, generally cooperative society. Tallapalam Cooperative Society versus Supreme Court of versus Union of India. This is the case. In this case, Supreme Court said, if there is a substantial financial contribution of the state to the cooperative society, it will become public authority. And in every case, commission has to sit and decide whether it is a public authority or not. That is the answer to your question.
Correct, sir. Sir, we have Dilip, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I don't have specific questions. I just was a listener. I wanted to know about it. And recently, when I asked for a certain document from the National Highway Acquisition Authority of certain persons who claimed right over my property on the basis of certain documents, I was denied, saying that I should prove my reason for getting.
You should prove what?
My right to.
You should give reasons for asking.
Asking them.
They can't ask like that. They should give you information.
Thank you.
You please take it in appeal and fight for it.
Yes. Appeal also, when I filed appeal, they said that you can have, because it was a voluminous document, you can come and refer and take photos if you want.
That they can say.
Yeah, that is in fact the grant of right to information. Mr. Dilip, I suggest you to go and have inspection and pick up the documents which you want.
Yes.
That means you are getting information. Get it.
I did it.
Access.
Yeah, I mean, even you can ask for the prototypes. That's the beauty of this act. Ravi Aluwala, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sridhar sir. I got like a lot of information.
Very good.
And I have a question. My wife worked for a PSU insurance, public sector unit insurance.
Oh.
And she added myself and my parents in her health insurance. And after a few days, she has deleted. And after that, my mother has some operations and everything. So through RTI, can I get information when our names were added and when our names were deleted?
Your wife should have told you.
No, we have some classes going on.
They are on the both side,
Maybe in a strained relationship.
That you should tell. That you should have told me.
Going on.
That you should have told me.
In fact, continuation of the yesterday's session. Yesterday we had a session, so.
I'm sorry. So my suggestion is, when she is contributing for your insurance of somebody else, she has every right to do that.
Yeah, okay.
But exactly when it has been done can be got from the insurance company, sir.
True. You can have it. You can have it from insurance company, but insurance company will consider it as a third party information. Because and it will be, she will be consulted and she will definitely say no, because you are at loggerheads. Then you have to leave it to the discretion of the PIO. And if PIO sides with you, you will get it. If not, you will not get it. You have to fight at commission, and commission also, I doubt whether you get it or not.
Because I know when it's been added, because she has sent me an email, screenshot that it's been added, and afterwards it's been deleted.
Can you tell me in what way it will be useful for you in the litigation?
Because now we are fighting for the child, for the child.
In
Custody
what
of
way
the child.
it affects, you're right, you have every right. It will be decided based on the circumstances. Whether you are deleted or not deleted, will it be a very influencing factor?
No, probably he may be thinking that the deletion of that name of the child right to get insurance by the mother will acting against the interest of the minor, so that she can claim that she is not interested in the welfare of the child, probably.
Yeah, that's correct, sir.
No,
Maybe
child's name is not removed, sir.
Huh?
Child's name is not removed, sir. It is the removal of the parents
Myself
and
and
the
my
husband.
She removed actually on the birth certificate. They don't want to keep my name also, I came to know, but it was there. Now she can't remove on the birth certificate.
Mr. Ravi,
Yeah.
what I can say is, we are also not supposed to discuss all these things.
Okay.
It is truly personal, truly, totally personal, and unfortunate that it has come out in a litigation. So this is a very, very complex area, and it has to be decided in the commission only. I cannot say anything on that. I have to consider all the points, and then only as a commissioner I can say something. Otherwise, I cannot.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I got it, sir. Yeah.
Sir,
I think you have understood
a
the
PSU insurance company, public sector insurance company is a public authority, right?
Yeah, definitely. But still,
then-
this information is private, now.
No, it's a contract of Gurume Fidi. It's a
Not
contract
a
of Gurume
pie.
Fidi.
See, not a pie contributed by him.
Yeah, that's another thing, sir. I mean, for getting information, my involvement in that is of no consequence.
Not involvement. You are not a contributory at all to that fund.
That's correct, sir.
That
But I'm only
policy.
seeking information.
But here
I
we have
need
to.
no.
we
No,
have
I
to
need
take
not
the
even know.
point of-
Even I need not even to disclose whom I have protected.
So as Mr. Sridhar asked, for what purpose? What is the benefit, earthly benefit you are going to derive?
That only comes in, sir, when information of third party is sought for and the commission has to take a decision whether it should be disclosed or not, I believe.
Mr. Ravi, I will tell you one unconnected similar story. See, first wife of a public employer is asking for the information of the nominee of the terminal benefits recorded by the government servant. Now, whether she is interested in, she will have any public interest in knowing it was the question. I said there is public interest and she should get that information because he's a public servant and he is expected to marry only one. Bigamy is a violation of conduct rules. So if he has really had another affair or another person whose name he has nominated, she has, as a possible legal heir, she has a right to question it. In those circumstances, he can get that information.
Okay, got it.
So you may have to search for such a cause, such a ground. Now, what Mr. Ramakrishnan said is very, very important point. Unless you establish that child welfare aspect is related to, linked to, you may not get that information under public interest clause. Public interest is an exception to private information. So you must bring it under at least public interest. Unless you do that, you may not get it.
Yeah, okay, got it, sir. What exactly? So
Thank you, Ravi, for sharing.
Thank you.
So as we
Project the child rights. You have to project the child rights.
Correct. Child right is paramount, Child's
the
welfare is
of the
paramount.
child, the welfare of the child, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
That is the principle.
As we
No, as regards one thing, because I was mooted at that time. See, as regards the court's document by a third party, I think there are certain provisions in the copying rules which says if a third party applies for a document, he will have to get the leave of the court for the purpose of getting it. Court has got the right to grant or not to grant, depending
It's an
upon the
affidavit and
purpose
petition. Affidavit and
purpose for which it has been given. So there is a prohibition of a right to third party to get it as of right.
That's what I said. In fact, supposing the court refuses leave, then can the party turn around and apply under the RTI Act?
No, that I don't think so. I can't. It is not possible. I think because
Then again, if then 8(1)(b) applies. 8(1)(b) says if it is prohibited by the court. So once a court order comes, I believe, Sridhar sir, it's akin to a prohibition.
Not only that, suppose it presupposes, suppose he presupposes a
I'm
permission.
very sorry to say this.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt all of you.
Yeah.
Once a document is termed as a public document,
Yes, sir.
once court record is there,
Yeah.
there is any question of refusal.
No, even for public
Also,
document,
I'll give an example.
Yes, sir.
You have a document whereby a property is registered with the registrar of assurances. Can he deny a copy of the document whenever we apply for? He cannot.
No, sir.
He cannot deny. As a matter of right, we are entitled because it happens to a public document. Similar is the case with the court records.
So what in the
Even
unlikely...
if a public, only thing is, along with an application for a copy, the party must set out an affidavit giving reasons why it requires. And once it happens to be a public document, once we term a document as a public document, question of refusal or rejection doesn't arise at all.
So very well, sir. Sir, we were on the scenario, maybe it's an artificial scenario, where the court refuses the application by a third party for getting a copy.
No, the question is, probably that's an improper exercise of jurisdiction or exercise of authority by the court. It cannot.
Until it is corrected, sir, 81B might apply.
No, forget about all those things, Mr. Nil. What I mean to say,
not only that, no, Ramana, there the question, we are not, that's it. Suppose he presupposes the leave of the court, can the RTA Act go against that and say grant it?
That is the point.
Okay.
Let me answer, sir.
You want to go for,
I have an answer, sir.
Go for application of RTA Act.
Yes.
I have an answer, sir. Because we are discussing RTI. Now, there are 2 points. Whether granting a copy is a judicial process or administrative process.
Administrative.
Then you have to give the information under RTI Act. If you say that if it is part of proceedings of judicially, when you are adjudicating a matter, a right to copy of information about somebody else, which is under litigation, becomes a judicial issue, you are supreme. I will not interfere. I mean, RTA will not interfere.
Rejection might be judicial, sir.
Not always. Not always, sir. Not always.
Suppose a party to the proceedings applies for certified copy, it's an administrative.
No,
but
sir,
when a third party comes,
you seek the leave of the court, and
then it is a judicial act. It is a judicial act.
That's point. That is the point, sir. Whether see again the point of Mr. Venkatraman, you have to go back to him. What he rightly pointed out is if it is stated to be a public document. Now, when you are having public hearings and open hearings, when RTA Right to Information Act says whatever you have as a record, which is subject only to Section 8 and nothing else, that will prevail. And your rules, your regulations of copyright application and the rules prepared by High Court or District Court do not prevail. When there is a contradiction between your rules and RTA, it will not prevail. That's a major point.
Will be available to the...
It will override. Under RTA Act, only point is where you can prove that it is a judicial process, you can have your own authority. But if it is a mere copy, asking for a copy, it is again third party. Every RTA application is by third party. If that is the case, you will not give anything. You will not give anything to anybody in the world. So that is not the case. Where only when you prove that it is a judicial process, yes. But unfortunately, there is another High Court judgment, another judgment of Delhi High Court, which says that every copy is a application for a copy, whether it is RTI or under copy application is a judicial process, and we will not give. That's a wrong judgment according to my understanding. But this is what is there in Delhi. Otherwise, RTI will prevail.
May I just add to this?
Please.
Yes, please, Mr. Vijay.
Sir, I think there is a judgment of Supreme Court arising from Gujarat High Court rules with regard to right of when a third party makes an application for a copy of court proceedings, copy of an order, which one would prevail, whether the Gujarat High Court rules, which are under which the copy of application has to be given, or the RTI rules will prevail. Supreme Court has said that it is these Gujarat High Court rules which will prevail. The manner in and RTI, it is not the RTI rules which will apply. This is a judgment of Justice Bhanumati in last year. So I think
I request you to give me the link.
Surely, sir. Surely, it is rendered because I'm not. While you were talking, I was just searching on my iPad about this particular issue, and I just gone through it.
This is the problem. The Parliament did not intend this way. RTI Act doesn't say this, but it is the judgment of Supreme Court. That's all.
It's the judgment of Supreme Court, which has interpreted both the RTI provisions and the Gujarat High Court rules.
That's
So
another judgment which goes against the spirit of RTI.
So it's the Justice Bhanumati's judgment.
Yeah. possible.
I'll just share it.
I tell you, sir, this is a similar judgment was given by Manmohan of Delhi High Court. I don't remember exactly when, but that's it. That is the problem. So that's what the judiciary after 2005. Most of the judgments are against disclosure.
Sir, I mean, before we come to the end of the 170th session, taking the freedom of this academic platform, may I just put might be a silly question, but still, sir, right to information versus this virtual hearing wherein the hearing is confined to the parties alone or the lawyers alone and not being opened up. How do you reconcile both?
It should be recorded and made available.
Recorded and made available. Okay.
And
Okay,
there is a
sir,
Supreme Court judgment to that
It should
extent.
be-
There is a Supreme Court judgment permitting the recording and access to also. But they were hesitating to make it totally transparent. In my view, if you want virtual hearings as the order of the hearing, because of your basic rule of which is established of open hearing, you must keep it accessible. Live streaming also, live streaming, and put it on website as an accessible record.
Very
Sir,
good,
all
sir.
your discussion on copy application and copy disclosure which we had today will be simply become irrelevant with these virtual hearings. And if you go by the principle of recording it and putting it on the website, which is happening in several countries of this world,
US,
it is happening.
In US,
So
it is
we should progress into transparency, and judiciary more so is required more transparency than anything else. From the appointments to transfers, nobody knows why a judge is appointed, why a judge is not appointed, and nobody knows why a judge is being transferred and why the other is not. This is a basic question, and nobody knows when a particular case will be decided. When do I get final justice? And if this is my question under RT application, what is your answer?
And why more competent lawyers are ignored?
That's the point, sir. Why somebody is becoming judge means why? That is my question.
According to me, why more competent lawyers are ignored from being elevated?
And look at this, sir. Let me pose one very thinking question. In any executive office, if a person is rejected based on the disqualification, that information is made available. If somebody is appointed because of merits, that information is asked to be made available. If somebody is not appointed, you are asking them to give reasons for not appointment. But when it comes to judges, they say it will affect their reputation. So the reputation of others is immaterial, and reputation of judges is the only material.
Sir,
This is a very serious problem with.
This is a decision he referred to. Vijay has referred to, I think. So, Chief Information Commissioner versus High Court of Gujarat and another. This is a certified copy. That is reported in 2024 SCC 702.
Justice Bhanumati, sir.
Yes, Justice Bhanumati is whether the provisions of RTA can be resorted to when there is a mechanism provided under High Court rules. When the information to be accessed, certified copies on judicial site to be obtained through mechanism provided under the High Court rules, RTA shall not be resorted to.
Yeah. This there is one point, sir. One point to be added. I don't want to condemn the judgment totally, or I don't want to say something else. But there are two aspects to this. Suppose I need a certified copy for appeal, for making an appeal. I should follow the procedure prescribed by the Gujarat High Court. Suppose I want some copy for only information purposes. I can get it under RTA application. This is the division I found out when I was hearing certain cases with reference to courts.
Absolutely.
So when court insists that you should file a certified copy, insist on court given certified copy. I have no problem.
That's for, if you are taking that channel. Otherwise, why should you?
Yeah, that's the problem. That is the issue.
Very good justification.
And that is available to the parties. And this is available to everybody.
Anybody, yes.
Sir, we have been dealing with a subject which many of us don't comprehend or understand to be so powerful. But for as far as Cochin or for that matter Kerala is concerned, I can just cite one example. We had a toll booth wherein tolls were being collected, and that for so many years that one day one gentleman just posed a question or put a question under the Right to Information Act. What was the expenditure for this construction? BOT, it is build, operate and transfer. How much money transferred, etc. No answers were given, but third day the toll booth was shut down.
That is the benefit.
Over collection.
We should understand that unless and until you know the tools that you are having, you need not go out on the streets always. You
Correct.
need not have the slogans. You need not have these morchas or things like that. If you are empowered by what all things that are available, I'm sure that we can make a paradigm shift, or I mean a revolutionary shift in the way in which you react and respond to issues, other than throwing stones or going out in the complete morcha, jurus and all those things. I mean, that's my understanding. And
In such cases, it will be more than a pill, sir.
so your 10 rupee pill is, I think, the best medicine that we ever had in the last 170 sessions. I mean, they are going to swallow it even without water, in the sense like that's the pill we required. And that's the way we would like to. And sir, as we come to the end of this session, which is a bit painful in the sense like it was so illuminating and I mean, it was so engaging, I may request Vijay to do the concluding remarks as he did the initial introductory remarks.
And now I'm a little more prepared. Actually, I drove down from Rajahmundry about 500 kilometers to Hyderabad just about 10 minutes before your session. And I walked in, then I was asked to talk about it. Anyway, sir, I always like to hear lectures where people express their opinion independent of the precedents of the land. That is a very original way. You may agree, you may not agree. It's a very original way of understanding their understanding of the act. It is always, for me, it is always interesting to see an approach to the interpretation of the act on their own individual opinion, rather than being influenced by the judgments of the law, the courts of the land. This is what I fundamentally like in any lecture, any writing and anything. Sir, today you have given what I was looking at. It was thoroughly in your individual opinion with regard to the correctness with regard to the intent of the legislative intent of RTI, notwithstanding the judgments of Supreme Court or the High Courts. Sir, that will put the younger generation or my generation into a thought process where we can think independent of the judgments, because tomorrow the law of the land may change some way or the other in some other circumstance. So these kind of lectures would help the people to understand the scheme of the act and to take it to a next level whenever the opportunity comes. Sir, thoroughly interesting, thoroughly authoritative. That was expected to be, considering that that you are holding the position you are in, and being a professor, very effortlessly you could wave through all those issues. Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much for addressing us there on this subject.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you. And it is said that practice makes perfect. But if you practice something imperfectly, you become a perfectionist in that imperfection. So it is not right to information, but right to the correct and the right information which we like to assert, because they might give you some sort of information so that the 30-day moratorium can be somehow or other met, and the 250 per day punishment could be got over or something like that. So unless and until we are educated, unless and until we are empowered, we have all the tools around. Let us empower ourselves with all these things, and let us be part and parcel of this journey of discovery. And today, thanks to Vijay, we had the best speaker as far as right to information is concerned. And right to information is a facet of life. It's not just a right that which can be equated with something else. I believe that right to information is the fundamental thing wherein my right of self-determination, my right to decide something depends upon the inputs or the data which I am given. So like I started off the session, I'd say, sir, it was a wonderful session, illuminative, and I'd say engaging, that all of us were fully involved with that caustic at certain times, and maybe critical on certain issues. But like Mrs. Nagamuthu used to say, entitled to your opinion, I am entitled to my opinion. But end of the day, we all go home enriched and empowered. So exchange of ideas, exchange of things. Thank you, Justice Ramkumar sir, Justice Ramakrishnan sir, Justice Ramana sir, and all of you wonderful participants for being part and parcel of this journey. And till we meet again next time, let us see to that our right to information and right to self-determination is preserved and protected at any cost. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.